Matt, originally I was skeptical about this even taking place. This fight is a weird one between No Mercy Petr Yan and the man, the former longtime WEC UFC featherweight champ Jose Aldo Jr. This is an interesting one because, again, you get Jose Aldo coming down from 45. So he loses to Volkanovski, takes on a really tough test to Marlon Moraes, and, oh, by the way, loses that fight. And again,
he won, to be fair.
I understand it was a close fight. I thought Moraes won that one, and it was really close, and I can keep saying how close it was, but he still lost, and it doesn't change it. Whereas Petr Yan had some good wins, beats John Dodson, beats Uriah Faber, and all of a sudden really pushes himself into the pinnacle of 35 and leapfrogs the Sandhagens and the Sterlings of the world. Now he's taking on Jose Aldo for the belt. Kind of insane. Everybody out there with the old Fight Nighter Nation decided to vote, and I could not believe how many votes we got on this one, to see what you guys, the fans, were thinking of. And over on YouTube in the community section, this is what you came up with. Out of 466 votes, 71% going with Petr Yan. Matt, does that surprise you?
Not really, because A, everyone wants that new shiny thing over the old thing, and right now Petr Yan is that new shiny thing. I think we know we're going to get an entertaining fight, a very exciting fight between these two, and that's why it was put together. Because if you have Yan against Sterling, it's going to be a great fight, and the hardcore fans are going to really enjoy it. It's just neither guy has that big name value to where, okay, you won that fight, now you can headline a pay-per-view, for instance. If you beat Jose Aldo, you can headline a pay-per-view, because he draws so many eyes that you're going to have a big name if you are able to get that win. And with Jose Aldo, yes, he's older in his career, he's had a few losses. He's only lost to Conor McGregor, Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski, Marlon Moraes. Now, Marlon, I would say, is a bit of a step back from those other three, of course, at a new weight class, though. And he's going to be much more accustomed to his physique, I think, at this weight class, because there's always that bit of an adjustment period. And I think we saw that at the beginning of the Marlon fight, because at least how I scored it, I thought Marlon won the first round, and Jose had won round 2 and 3. Now, round 3 was pretty close, but I thought round 1 definitely Marlon, round 2 definitely Aldo, and then round 3 was quite close. Aldo in that second and third round, though, was starting to put it together, throwing those really nice body shots. He's a phenomenal boxer, which is going to bite him in this fight, I think. But his striking is on this crazy level. Petr Yan reminds me a little bit of Yoel Romero in his striking. And I know that's a bit of a weird thing to say, but he has two modes. He's either in attack mode or defense mode. He's not really, I'm going to slip punches and throw my combinations kind of in the middle of it. He's going to wait there. He's going to defend your shots. And then kind of while you're adjusting to his pressure, then he's going to just unload on you. Because the first 3 minutes, it seems, of most rounds, he's going to wait, and he's going to wait, and he's going to wait. And people love to bring up the Jimmy Rivera fight, how Jimmy Rivera was winning before the knockdowns. But that's the problem. He got dropped 4 times in that fight, because every time Yan decided, okay, I'm going to switch it on, he would throw bombs and put Rivera down. Petr Yan is a master of sport in boxing, which means that he had to have had almost like 250 amateur fights. And at that level, you're at that like Vasily Lomachenko amateur level where Petr Yan said it to Jimmy Rivera. He's like, there's nothing you do that can surprise me. Because when you've had that many amateur fights, what is anyone going to do that you haven't seen at least 10 times before?
That's the scariest part, and that's why I led with, okay, he has a win over Uriah Faber, he has a win over John Dodson. I'm going to gloss over Jimmy Rivera just so I can bring it up later on, because that's such a big win. For you to outbox Jimmy Rivera, Marlon Moraes didn't outbox Jimmy Rivera.
Well,
he caught him with a wild kick. We didn't get to see that crispness from him. Well, we did in terms of the kickboxing. Petr Yan absolutely put it on him in that fight. Uriah Faber is like a cherry on top of the cake, and it's a big win to boost your star. It's like if Amanda Hebos beats Paige Van Zandt, that's kind of the similar type of case here.
But we knew who was going to win that fight going into it.
On a grander scale. So for Petr Yan to get some of these wins, they're huge in terms of how far he can go in the UFC's division here. So he comes in, the Jin Soo Son fight, yikes. That makes you worry a little bit. The fight against John Dodson, yikes. I mean, he won it, and he won it telling. But there were some spots in there where, again, he took that defensive mode where he took some shots. If Jose Aldo puts it on him like John Dodson did, or like Jin Soo Son, and I shouldn't say John Dodson like that. He had a really big win against Nathaniel Wood in his last one.
Breaks are Jin Soo Son, too.
Former champ or title challenger at 125 multiple times. But Petr Yan has had some really good fights. And Douglas Silva de Andrade, I love D. Silva. I love D. Silva so much, but Petr Yan, huge win there. He's looked amazing so far in the UFC. There's 2 fighters under 145 pounds look awesome coming out of ACB. Petr Yan's one, and my guy, Askar Askarov, is another one at 125. Jose Aldo's a different animal. And this is the thing. I led with I don't think this fight makes a lot of sense because Jose Aldo's coming in off of 2 losses. Your argument, your counter to me, I'm going to agree with you. It's styles that make fights.
Yeah.
Jose Aldo is such a great stylistic matchup for Petr Yan. This is the other thing, and it came out today on Twitter, and again, we're over a week out from this fight. Jose Aldo wearing the Phuket Top Team shorts. If he's wearing Muay Thai shorts, do you think that we're going to get the Aldo of old where we're going to see those perfectly placed leg kicks?
No, because we haven't seen... I love Jose Aldo. Like, I cannot emphasize that enough. If Jose Aldo's fighting, I will cancel plans. I don't care. I'm going to make sure I can just cancel whatever and watch him fight. He's basically a boxer at this point in his career, but he's so good at boxing that's been able to beat guys like Renato Moicano, like Jeremy Stephens. But when you look at the last 2 Max Holloway fights, the Volkanovski fight, and then those 2 wins in there as well, he really only throws his hands. Yes, he'll throw the occasional leg kick just to keep his opponent honest, but in the first Max Holloway fight, he didn't throw a single leg kick. It was a big talking point in the fight, and then the second one, it felt like he was only throwing them because he was kind of pressured to throw them in that fight, because everyone said, well, if he had thrown them against Holloway in the first one, he'd probably win. And then we saw him throw them in the second one, and Holloway's just pressure was able to get to Aldo at a certain point. And then Jeremy Stephens, how did he beat him? Had perfect boxing, was really comfortable in the pocket, was able to slip shots, go to the body, and then put him down. And with Renato Moicano, same thing. He was just able to outbox him. Now, when you're as good of a boxer as Jose Aldo, you can beat those guys. I don't think you can outbox Petr Yan, though, unless you are like a Max Holloway, for instance. You have to be tall, you have to be long, you have to be able to really move out of the way of his shots, because Yan has this weird kind of pressure to his game where he's not like a Holloway, for instance, where Holloway's in your face hitting you and then he'll move out of the way and hit you more. Yan's just always there, no matter what. No matter where you move in the cage, no matter what you're trying to do, he's always going to be right in front of you with that really high guard, and it's kind of an intimidating thing as a fighter.
And we didn't see that recently with Dustin Poirier, but when you fight a guy like Dustin Poirier, he's always in your face. He's always pushing forward. Totally different fighters, but there are some similarities that you can draw from. And for Jose Aldo, this is the one thing that really kind of throws a wrench into it. I think if this fight was a 3-round fight, overwhelmingly Petr Yan. Like, throw out the game plan, throw out the papers that I have written in front of me, throw everything out. I think it heavily favors Petr Yan. But you're in disagreement with me.
Yeah.
This, of course, being a 5-round title fight, you think that this actually favors Yan.
Well, yeah.
And the surprising thing here is the fact that, again, Aldo has so many fights that have gone 5 rounds, but they were at 45. This is the first one at 35 that's going to be taking place for A, a title, and B, at 5 rounds.
I don't know if you remember this, but Jose Aldo's not this cardio king by any means. He would just beat you so badly in those first 2 rounds that even though his cardio would fade quite heavily, he would just put so much damage on his opponent that they were so kind of debilitated by those last 2 rounds that his fade and cardio didn't matter. But then you look at the Lamas fight, for instance. Lamas ended that fight on top of Aldo, raining on him. Mark Hominick, who took one of the worst beatings ever throughout like 3.5 rounds, and the end of the 4th round, beginning of the 5th round, he was doing good work on Aldo because Aldo's gas tank has just never really been all that great. He's a very heavily muscled guy. He's extremely explosive, and those two things just don't really go hand in hand. There's a very select few that have been able to throw power shots and have good cardio. I would say like Dustin Poirier is one of the few good guys who he's got that big pop in his shots, but he can go 5 hard rounds. Stipe's another guy. And, like, we're talking about some, like, all-time greats at this point. And not that Aldo isn't. It's just that's always been a facet of his game that's never been all that impressive. He does fade as the fight goes on. I think that weight cut is hard on him. I don't care what anyone says, how he looked better than TJ Dillashaw after he did his extreme weight cut. But I always thought 135 for Aldo was more of an experiment than a long-term kind of an establishment, I guess, if you will. I thought he'll have his one fight there. If he loses, he'll go up to 45, maybe even 55, because for the longest time,
but he lost.
He did.
He got his title shot.
But for the longest time, the talking point was always, oh, if Aldo changes weight, he'll just go up to 55. He can fight Cowboy. Khabib, he kind of matches up well with stylistically in a weird way.
Rematch with Conor.
Exactly. Like, there was a lot of money fights, if you will, at 155 that would have been very entertaining for him. And Aldo used to have a hard time making 45. Like, he would struggle to get to 45. So to think that he'd have to take 10 more pounds off of himself to then make 35, I know a lot of that's muscle, and I think that's going to hurt him in this fight too. Because you have a guy who's very in love with his boxing, and it is world class, against a guy who, if you're just going to go out there and box him, you're playing into his game plan to begin with. I think 5 rounds helps Yan for, like what I said before, when he's in that defensive mode, he's not really exerting a lot of energy. So if Aldo's just out there kind of pot-shotting him, trying to throw heavy bombs too, I think Yan, at least defensively, is going to be aware enough to slip those shots. With Dodson, I don't think it was a defensive issue. I just think John Dodson, even at this point in his career, is so fast. He has hand speed that not many other guys can match. Aldo has good hand speed, but he's much more the power behind all those shots. I think Jan's going to be smart enough to evade the big power shots. I think he'll be able to land his own at some point. And let's say he can get Aldo up against the cage for any period of time. It's going to be the Justin Gaethje effect, where Gaethje, he's dangerous in the middle of the cage. If he can get your back against the cage, he's just kind of got these scenarios that he goes into, and he reacts very well when his opponent's on the defensive. I think Yan has that same mentality. This very well could be fight of the night. I think this is probably going to be the most exciting of the 3 title fights, just because both guys have the ability to finish this fight no matter where it goes. I'm going to say Petr Yan by TKO, though. I'm not in love with that pick, just because Aldo has shown pretty good durability at 35. I thought his chin might be a bit of an issue.
Fight.
But Marlon Moraes head kicked him. He landed bombs on him, and Aldo seemed to take them quite well. But I just think the pressure of Yan will eventually get to Aldo.
That's the thing. I mean, Petr Yan in the first round. So for Jose Aldo against Marlon Moraes, Moraes won the first round, poured it on him. Second round, Aldo. Third round, close. Petr Yan, it's going to take him some time to download your game plan in the first round. So does Jose Aldo just go balls to the wall and completely pour it on him? Because really, yeah, I agree. I think that's probably the method of victory. Jose Aldo's got to get it done quick. Because once we get into the second round, third round, the fourth round, the fifth round, it's going to start to favor the guy that's been at 35.
Unless he throws calf kicks. Like if Jose Aldo has been training in Phuket top team and he's going to decide to start throwing leg kicks, that Jose Aldo is probably going to win. I just think the injuries that he's taken to the lower half of his body, I'm sure he's training those kicks. I'm sure it's part of his game plan. But I think when he gets into that cage, he's going to remember, I broke my feet this way. I have a lot of knee injuries. And boxing's just quite a bit easier, especially with a guy who's going to play that game with you.
That's it. And it makes for such an interesting fight. Again, Jose Aldo coming in here as a fairly substantial underdog. I mean, Petr Yan over a 2-1 favorite. If you look over at the votes on Tapology, there's a lot of them, over 1,000. 79% with Petr Yan. Overwhelming majority, 69% going with the win by knockout for Petr Yan. I think that's the path to victory. I think the championship rounds, again, you got to play devil's advocate. The fact that Jose Aldo's been in so many title fights, WEC, UFC, whatever, mixed result lately, but still, for such a long time, one of the most dominant champions that we've ever seen. George St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, Jose Aldo,
pretty much.
John Jones. Those are the guys up there on that pedestal. But I think this is Petr Yan's time to shine, and I think it's a perfect opportunity for him to pick up the win at Fight Island. Matt, both going with Petr Yan to get the win. Let us know your picks down below. Again, toss up the fan vote from earlier on. You're not going to want to miss the rest of our predictions for this card, an extended look here, and for Holloway Volkanovski number 2, as well as a tough test for Gilbert Burns against Kamaru Usman in the main event. You're going to want to keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt. And as we always say, let's get into it.